Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Trials of Mana. To give you a brief history about this game, this was the sequel to Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo. However, this game never made it to North America until the Collection of Mana. This has the original Super Nintendo version of Trials of Mana, and this was the only way that you could legally play this game now. However, I chose not to play the Super Nintendo version of this game because I also own the remake of this game. It's pretty difficult to compare it to Final Fantasy Adventure and Secret of Mana just because it's like a modern remake with lots of quality of life changes. Obviously, for these reasons, this game is my favorite out of the three. I know that they recently released Legend of Mana, which I have yet to purchase. So as far as these three games go, Trials of Mana is my favorite, but it has a huge advantage over the first two games. I'm glad I played through the first two games, however, because it was fun to see these characters and assets with all these different graphical limitations and styles, the first being Final Fantasy Adventure. So it was fun to see Rabites and Mushbooms and like the dwarves. It was fun to see them with Game Boy graphics and then 16-bit graphics on the Super Nintendo. And then I got to see these characters in a modern 3D video game. They all had similar forms, but vastly different graphical looks. They even have the same elementals from Secret of Mana, and it was fun because this game included voice acting for pretty much all of its character interactions, including the elementals. Some of the times I would just think to myself like, oh, that's not how I heard that elemental talking, but I guess it's up to the voice actors how they want their elemental characters to sound. I hear this game holds a lot of similarities to its original Super Nintendo version, however, the first being that you can create a team of 3 characters out of a roster of 6. And the 3 characters that you do not choose will make some brief appearances, but they don't get nearly as much screen time as the 3 characters that you do choose. You are also required to choose a main character that will get most of the character development. I believe the main character is the one who gets to wield the Sword of Mana. So I chose Duran to be my main character. I feel like the game wants me to pick him as the main character because he's usually front and center when it comes to displaying all 6 of the roster. Also, I just like that his name is Duran because it reminds me of the band Duran Duran, who you may know for singing Hungry Like the Wolf. One character that I do regret picking as a side character is my healer, Charlotte, however, because the voice actor for her, I don't know if I've ever heard a real toddler talk like this, but in media, they love to make toddlers talk where they replace their R's and L's with W's, like, oh, we got to get over and get the bad guy, and it's just so awful. Like, I'm exaggerating to an extent, but it is really bad and almost unbearable. The dialogue in this game is really corny, and the voice acting isn't much better. I've heard that switching it over to the original Japanese voice acting is a lot better, and then just reading the English subs, but I kept that on English, and the voice acting is pretty questionable, but it was humorous at the same time. As far as the whole gameplay and even the story in this game, I would say simple, but not bad. Like, you still are engaged to some extent, so we'll just talk about the story. Basically, there's another big baddie looming over the Tree of Mana. That's a reoccurring thing in all of the Mana series. And it's your job to go and get the Mana Sword, and you have to defend the 8 crystals and get all 8 elements, and it is very traditional RPG stuff. I do like the combat a lot better in this game than the previous 2 games, probably because they really flipped it on its head. As far as Secret of Mana went, I didn't like charging up attacks and just slowly waddling around and waiting for a character to get up on its feet. In this game, it is just more like a traditional hack and slash, but it's not so button mashy that it is just brain dead, because the enemies will have indications on the floor where they are intending to attack. So it's your job to pay attention, and while you're attacking the enemy, you have to pay attention to the floor and avoid those areas that the enemy does intend to attack. If you have a dedicated healer like I did, even if you get hit by these attacks by a tanky character, it's not that big of a deal. They do some other things too. They love to do this thing when you're fighting a boss where they are charging up a super ultimate attack and it's your job to hurry and destroy the indicated thing, so you interrupt that. But as far as leveling up, and I mostly played melee, so I didn't dive too much into the spell casting itself, but it was basic. It was simple. You have your dedicated combo that you like, and you just repeat that over and over again while avoiding the spots on the ground. You have a dive roll, you have a jump, but you don't have to do the jump too often in combat just to hit flying enemies. And then leveling up, you can choose to put points in one of 5 stats, and when you hit certain landmarks on those stats, you unlock certain abilities. So if you're a spellcaster, you want to put points in intelligence first, in my opinion. And as you go into those points, you might unlock a fireball spell. Obviously, you have to have the corresponding element in order to use these spells as well. My character, Duran, I liked because you unlock certain buffs to your sword, like you imbue it with elemental powers. And as you move along through the story, you can unlock different classes. So that there is some ways to mix it up. It's not incredibly brain dead. It's just simpler. You know, it's more for like an entry-level RPG. I felt like this would be a good starting position for someone who is newer to this genre. There's gear, you know, your headpiece, your weapon, and as you go along, you unlock these passive effects that you can also attach to your character. Sometimes talking to random NPCs will even unlock one of these passive effects that you can attach to anyone in your team. So you are encouraged to go around talking to a bunch of random NPCs. Sometimes you get these through playing through the story. Sometimes you get them through leveling up your character certain ways. So there's more customization than meets the eye at the beginning, but it's not anything too insane. Another thing that I really like about this remake compared to something like The Secret of Mana is the inclusion of waypoints. So they tell you exactly where to go. You don't have to worry. You don't have to look up a guide. I never had to pull up a walkthrough at all for this game. Just it's crazy how much I take these modern mechanics for granted, only to have them taken away and me to realize how much I miss things like waypoints. It makes the game so much more bearable. I talked about this during my Secret of Mana review, but I was complaining about the name of my dragon being chosen for me, Flamey, and I still think that is the dumbest name ever for a dragon. It's like what a 7-year-old names their Charizard on Pokemon, but Flamey, sure enough, he makes a reoccurrence in this game. Before Flamey, you get to ride around on this weird turtle duck thing, but you are limited to the bodies of water, so eventually you do unlock Flamey again. It was fun seeing Flamey in 3D graphics, however. They definitely have a unique take on the dragon aesthetic, but oh man, Flamey, why? It is an easier game, more basic like I was saying, but your teammates are still pretty dumb, same as in Secret of Mana. They get hit by a lot of enemy attacks. It can be pretty frustrating, but luckily enough, they are very generous with items, especially if you explore every nook and cranny like I do. You'll get plenty of candy and chocolate and cup of wishes to keep your party nice and healed up if Charlotte isn't doing her job, which sometimes she is more focused on trying to attack and do spell damage rather than healing up my party. So I would have to constantly dive into my items, which, you know, it's not that big of a deal. You can maintain control over your 2 side characters too if you just want to control as Charlotte and heal as her. As you are searching every nook and cranny for these items, you also encounter this cute little cactus character, and it is just fun exploring the land, looking out for these little cactuses, because as you find them, you get this little stamp book, and when you hit certain landmarks, it unlocks certain perks, like let's say 10% off stores when you are shopping, or let's say you can stay at inns for free, just little bonuses like that. So it is fun exploring the lands and looking for these little cactuses. You are going to be backtracking to a lot of these areas as well, so you'll have multiple chances to look out for them. There's a lot of reusing these character assets as well. A lot of the NPCs look the same. A lot of the enemies look the same, just maybe different color palettes to represent different difficulty levels of them. And the music is pretty basic, simple. It's good. I like the music in this game, but no bops here. Just traditional RPG goodness, which is a common theme I found in this game. It's just a simple, straight to the core, a basic RPG. And it's not that difficult for someone who is a veteran to this genre. Lots of items, like I already mentioned. I don't think I've ever gotten a game over on this game. I've gotten to the point where my 2 side characters would die because they just stay in the hitboxes of the enemies, so they'll kill themselves and I have to revive them if needed. But, you know, even the final boss only had 1 phase, and I was a little thrown off because most of the time when you play an RPG such as this, you'll kill the final boss and you'll think all is well, and then he'll come back even stronger, and then you have to fight him again. 2 or 3 different phases. But this time, the final boss only had 1 phase, and I was a little thrown off because I'm so used to final bosses having multiple phases. So like, wait, that's it? That's it? So just entry-level RPG. You don't have to stress out too much about it, but it does ask enough of you to stay engaged. In total, my game was keeping track, and it said that I played just under 16 hours. I'm not sure if I believe that because it felt a lot longer. Maybe it's because I was backtracking and a lot of the game felt pretty repetitive, but it felt more like in the 20s hour range. Because 16 hours just feels pretty short for a game such as this. I felt like they could even trim some of the excess fat in this game. It felt like they were just trying to extend the length of this game, so they put some filler in this game, which I did not appreciate. But in my opinion, that's just most RPGs. Overall, this was my favorite out of the 3. Obviously, like I stated before, it's because it's like a modern game with these modern qualities of life. I am going to give it the same score that I gave Secret of Mana, with a 3 out of 5. It just didn't do a whole lot to stand out in my mind, but it is just a solid game, if that's your thing. And I believe I only have 1 more Mana game to play through, The Legend of Mana. I have not acquired this one yet, however, so it might be a while before I review that. Other than that, though, I think I've played through all of the games in the Mana series. Please let me know if I'm missing one that I need to check out. And let me know your opinion of Trials of Mana. Did you play the original? Have you played this remake? How similar are the two? Just let me know your thoughts, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'll talk to you later. Bye!